What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I host the only online broadcast in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization, and I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multinational. It's a multi-platform, not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, wine, and travel. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on August 8th. Live here from Toronto, and definitely hot, hazy, humid Toronto. And we're really excited because it's another episode of Black Canada Talking, which is a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them. And another bi-weekly panel is upon us. And just ahead of time, just want to say Cesar, who's a member of our panel, he is on vacation, so he won't be with us for this episode or the next panel episode in 2 weeks' time. Warren Clark is not with us, and we are expecting Elle Jones to be with us, but we do have Sarah Yango with us. So Sarah, come and join us on the platform today and tell us how you're doing.
Woo!
There she goes. She's got her flags.
Yes!
She's got her flags.
Yes!
There we go. How we doing?
Wow. Oh my God, I'm still recovering. The two flags that got the most workout during these Summer Olympics in Tokyo, the Canadian flag and the Kenyan flag. As you know, I'm a very proud Kenyan. And you saw that the last two medals that were presented, and for the first time ever, the women's marathon medal ceremony at the closing ceremony. I got up at 5:30 to make sure I wouldn't miss that. Gold. Kenya struck gold. So I'm happy. That's why I'm glowing and I'm hyper and I can't sit still. I'm so excited. Yeah.
So it sounds like you had a great Olympic experience.
Yes. Surprisingly, because I was not expecting to get into it as much as I did because, COVID and being worried about, oh my God, are Canadian athletes going to start testing positive for COVID? Because as you know, Tokyo right now is in the midst of a terrible. And I know why they weren't talking a lot about it during the CBC coverage, or NBC coverage, but I'm sorry, guys, it's really serious. Yeah. It's bad,
Serious
people
situation.
Are suffering. And so I was really worried that, we were going to get, a whole series of infected Canadian and Kenyan athletes and Jamaican athletes. Those are the three, the three contingents that I watched. And I'm not just saying that because, of your heritage, but yeah, right. Well, but after I got over that whole, oh my God, COVID, and they're not wearing masks, and oh my God, and the protocol and everything, then I completely forgot about that. And I was just mesmerized by the performances and inspired by the stories. There's so many stories, all of the comeback stories, the stories of the women who went through motherhood, quite a few, more than usual, who had a child since the last Olympics and who had come back from that to even improve on their performance. People who'd had injuries, who weren't sure if they were going to be able to recover in time, and had not had enough opportunities to train or participate in a lot of competitions, leading up to Tokyo, right? And I see somebody's talking about USA. We are not going to talk about USA now.
Hold on now. No, they're a friend of my community, Coach.
No. I'm not starting a fight.
Okay.
I have American family.
Okay. All right.
Part of my family is actually American, like naturalized American. So that's not it at all. we're going to get to the Americans at some point, but we're Canadians, so we're going to really sort of push the Canadians and the Africans, whether they were running for an African country or another country. We're going to talk about that too. We need to talk about that. Okay. I have issues.
Let's start with the Canadian performance, especially the Canadian women performance.
Before we talk about the Canadian performances, can we please acknowledge the passing of a great Canadian Olympian, Angela Bailey?
Yes.
Remember her?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, let me close this. I got the wrong thing open. Yes. So, our legendary sprinter, Angela Bailey, she was an Olympic silver medalist and a Canadian record holder. She died this week at the age of 59. That's way too young to die of lung cancer. So in 1987, she clocked in at 10.98 seconds in the 100-meter sprint. And that record still stands today as the Canadian women's record. Okay. And she was... Yes, and she was a member of the women's silver medal winning 4x100-meter relay team at the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, United States, for our American friends. So our condolences, my condolences to her family and fans, and thanks to Angela Bailey for inspiring. Maybe she inspired the Felicia Georges and the Perdita Felicians and the sprint champions who came after her as well. So, wow, it was a very successful Olympic Games, right? Because we made 24 trips to the podium and we managed to not get infected. Okay. So we got, remember before the show, we were talking about, how, I was freaked out about the very bad fourth wave they were having over in Tokyo, and the fear that Canadians might be affected by that. They were not. So they managed to get 7 gold medals, 6 silver medals, and 11 bronze medals. And so this 24 medal count sets a new standard for Canada in a non-boycotted Olympics, while the 7 gold tied the nation's output at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. I remember that one. And I think the Barcelona Olympics were the Olympics where Sylvie Fréchette was robbed of her gold, I believe it was. She lost that to a Brazilian, I think it was, because of a scoring error. But moving right along. So the only time Canada took home more hardware was, again, in 1984 Los Angeles Games, when Canadian athletes won 10 gold and 44 medals in total. However, those games were boycotted by 14 Eastern Bloc countries, including the Soviet Union and East Germany. So in Tokyo, Canada ends up 11th, both in the official medal standings and the overall medal count. And it does make a difference if it's a boycotted or a non-boycotted games, because, I mean, we saw in, whether it's gymnastics, rhythmic gymnastics, the strength events, where else? Even in middle and long distances, I mean, the Eastern Europeans are very, very, they're very strong. So Canada did really quite well. I mean, I don't watch. I know we got medals in cycling and canoeing and Penny Alexiak and the swimming and all of that. Sorry, I don't watch that.
Well,
I'll admit it. I'm Canadian. Yes, I'm a traitor. I don't watch that. Well, I watch black people.
Well, I'm interested in the fact that I think probably the biggest, there's a lot of highlights. The women's soccer team.
Yes, there's three sisters in there. There's three sisters on that team. That was a crazy game.
Yeah.
The shootout at the end. I was. It's a good thing I'm off. I was off this week because I would not have been able to concentrate. The women finally the gold medal they have deserved for so many years, and I think Christine now can retire now in peace
Yes. Sinclair.
because
Yes.
she stayed on and hung on because this was what was missing in her medal chest, right?
Yeah.
But no, they're wonderful. The Canadian women's team, I've seen them play before in person. Great character, great skill, great leadership, and great sportsmanship. They're classy. They really are classy, and they know how to play. So they're great to watch.
And our wonderful Andre, our sprinters.
Oh my. Okay, I could talk for actually the day after the 100-meter race, I kind of lost my voice from screaming at the TV.
Oh,
At the TV.
well, save your voice for this broadcast, okay?
Yes. No, it's back.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Oh, Andre DeGrasse.
Yeah.
What a story, eh? So you can tell some of that story because he's a
yeah, born where I live in Scarborough.
Markham.
Lives in Markham.
Yeah.
But I guess his career really started with him and Usain Bolt going back and forth with each other during the last Olympic Games.
Yes.
And just watching them have their little game back and forth with each other. And then, him coming up to this Olympics, getting the bronze in the 100-meter, then winning the 200 meters, and then also being part of the relay team that medaled.
Yeah.
That's
Rio.
That's really congratulations to him. And he's another gentleman. He can retire now. I think he doesn't need.
You know what? Andre's just getting started. Actually,
yeah, I think he'll probably come back.
I remember the last Olympics where Usain and Andre were in the same race. Usain actually was saying, "You're next. You're that guy, and I know you are. And I'm giving you my blessing. You get out there and prove, what you're made of." And in fact, I believe Usain texted him or something after he won that 200-meter race and congratulated him, etc. No, Andre really is a study in just grit, hard work, class, discipline. Oh my gosh. You know, that guy, while he's got this track career, he is pursuing his education. I really like the example that he said. I believe did he get his master's degree?
Not sure.
But he did get his degree because he did go to school. He went to school in the States, I believe. In fact, a lot of his training is in the States. Most of our Canadian athletes, that's where they train because that's, where you have the elite athletics facilities for sprinters, right? And coaches, etc. But he was going to school, he got his degree, he's training, he's taking part in all these different races. He also has sponsors, so he's, attending engagements. I was actually at the ceremony where he got the Afro Global Excellence Award. Thank you, Pat and Moses, for recognizing Andre before he was the Olympic gold medalist. You guys saw something that, maybe some people hadn't seen. And he's doing that. He's taking care of his mom. Now he's a father. So he's got a family he's looking out for. And then during the preparation for this, his father died. Alex Waite passed away. Gentleman from Barbados originally. And with all of that, he manages to stay focused. He goes to Rio and he absolutely kills it. Not only does he kill it, but he also provides that leadership for the 4x100 meter men's. I'm sure Glenroy Gilbert. Thank you. Thank you, Glenroy, who is from Ottawa. I'll have you know, the coach, okay, for the 4x100. And look at the result. Amazing, just amazing. But you know what? There are people who did not get on the podium that I would like to salute as well. Justin Knight, who was in that same race as Mohammed Ahmed, who won for the first time ever that medal. I believe it was in the 5,000 meters. Let me find it just so I don't so I don't get it wrong. Yes, it was the 5,000 meters, and he completed that in a time of 12 minutes, 58.61 seconds. A 30-year-old from St. Catharines. And this is Canada's first Olympic medal in its history in the men's 5,000 meters. And of course, Mohammed Ahmed of Somali ancestry, who I'm sure is now being really looked up to by maybe the next generation of Canada's middle long distance runners who now have seen a medalist, a silver medalist, and can see themselves in what he achieved in Tokyo. And again, another story. I saw him at the Pan Am Games in Toronto in 2015. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy, ooh, I'm looking out for him in the next Olympics. Sure enough. Yeah.
But then there's the other side of the Olympics. The stuff we don't hear about, and I know you have some concerns about representation of athletes in different countries.
Yeah, but before I go to that, I need to shout out Aaron Brown, Brendan Rodney, Jerome Blake, and who ran with Andre DeGrasse to get us that bronze medal in the 4x100 meters, and of course Damian Warner, who was our flag bearer at the closing ceremonies, which I watched this morning, and who himself set a record by scoring over the 9,000 mark in the decathlon. The decathlon is actually, in my mind, the most prestigious event in track and field because it's 10 events. It's 10 events. Yep. You have to, do record times. You have to get, you have to have record-breaking performances in these 10 events in order to get enough points to get to that top of the podium. All right, so the next topic is
the other side in the Olympics, people representing countries that they weren't born in, etc.
Listen, okay, listen, okay, and speaking of the United States, somebody who should have run for this flag right here, this flag, was running for the United States. Actually, there was more than one. I think there were two that I saw in the middle to long distance races, Chilimo and somebody else. It looks like Uganda now is the place to go, for Kenyan runners. It's very strange, to me, to see Kenyan names and then to see this flag right here. No offense to our Ugandan friends, I love them, but it makes you wonder, and it's not just Kenyans running for Uganda, the United States. It's Ethiopians running for the Netherlands, for Bahrain, it's, Nigerians running for some other European country, or some Africans running for France who are not born in France, etc. And very often there's politics involved in it. In some cases, they miss the deadline to qualify for their national team. So they rush to be naturalized somewhere else so they can be in that national team, knowing that that particular country does not have a world record holder, or a gold medalist at the Diamond League, or that sort of thing. It's very calculated. But you know what? I can't hate on these athletes too much. Much as it pains me, it really hurts. You have no idea. For a Kenyan to not see their flag, completely dominate the podium from the 800 meters to the marathon. No, right? But I do understand athletics, it's a career. It's a career.
Well, it's a business. It's not a career. It's a
We'll
business.
get to the business part, but it's a career. First of all, it's a profession. It's a career. And every time you don't make this team and you don't compete in this Olympics or World Championships because for whatever reason your country has disqualified you from representing it, it's potentially career ending for you, right? And the sponsorship opportunities dry up, etc., etc. People need to see you performing. They need to see you performing on the big stage, not the little races, No, they need to see you on the big stage. So, yeah, when you get Olympic committees in Africa and I'm talking about Africa because, they're known. I'm not saying Africa is the only country. I mean, you've heard of the Eastern European countries, especially Russia, the Russia Federation, who couldn't even have their flag there. They had their Olympic committee and the athletes running for themselves, not representing their country. There's corruption everywhere. But when it comes to the African countries, we're very, very well known for the tribalism.
Mm-hmm.
I was just telling you earlier about, notice how the names are very similar. The Ugandans who got the medals, and then you hear the Kenyan names, and you're like, wait, what is this? What's going on? Right? So there's that. There's the nepotism, which happens in every country potentially. And then, of course, you've got the petty disagreements. So, for example, a lot of our Kenyan long distance runners, etc., I mean, they're paid to participate in races around the world. And you might, if you're unlucky, you get with the head coach who just doesn't take a shine to you and might be maybe jealous because you've made X $100,000 racing during, the years in between the Olympics. You make too much money already. What the hell? Like, why would I put you?
But are the Olympics still worth it?
Yes.
Why?
I can tell you about Kenya, for example, because, in Kenya, we don't have the kind of funding of sports that we have here in Canada, with programs like Own the Podium and that sort of thing. You don't. Ethiopia, neither. You don't have that kind of funding for sports, and even less so for the women, right? And so you saw Eliud Kipchoge, who is my man and always has been in the marathon. He won the gold. And Paris Jepchirchir. Now, those guys are going to go back to Kenya, and they have entire villages that they are supporting. A lot of them have become philanthropists who are now funding training for up and coming runners because that government funding is just not forthcoming. So out of the goodness of their heart, and also maybe a bit for their, the legacy piece of their career, they have poured money back into their own communities and set up training camps or programs. And they can also make money at that. I mean, I know people in Iten. Iten is the #1 training facility for marathon runners in Kenya, in Masailand, Iten. You'll find that all of these American runners, including Molly Seidel, who won she won the bronze, Molly Seidel. That's where they go and train to get really the top, conditions because of the altitude and the coaches and the training, right? So Yeah, the funding is lacking. And speaking of funding, I think you were alluding to this earlier. It is a money thing. Yes, amateur sports, blah de blah de blah. Maybe back in the day when I started watching the Olympics in 1972, it wasn't as much of a commercial endeavor, but the Olympics has become more of a commercial endeavor
Yes, of course.
under Juan Antonio Samaranch. Juan Antonio Samaranch turned that thing into like a big, you know, moneymaker, with the broadcast rights and merchandising and all of that stuff. But with that also comes the corruption. You saw all of those, the Olympic Committee officials who got arrested. I think some went to jail.
Yes.
And Juan Antonio Samaranch, in fact, was smeared with that. Like the end of his career was absolutely, completely tarnished when, that was all revealed. But in terms of money, when you see medalists, especially from Africa, and you see them crying, there's a reason. So if you win a gold medal, a silver medal, or a bronze medal, you get money for that. In Kenya, for example,
Yep.
the gold medalist will get $10,000 US. Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah. The silver medalist will get $7,500 US. And the bronze medalist will get $5,000 US. That's a lot of money. You can do a lot of that. The Nigerians have more money. So if you get gold and you're a Nigerian athlete, it's $15,000 US. The silver and bronze medal, they get $10,000 each. No, they get, $10,000 and $7,500 respectively. South Africa, listen to this.
Yes.
The gold medalist gets $37,000.
So
the silver medalist gets $19,000 and the bronze medalists get $7,000. Okay, so there's money attached to that. And let's go to the United States. I mean, the Americans, they have a program called Operation Gold, which was launched in 2017. So if you get a gold medal, you get $37,500. For silver, $22,500. And for bronze, it's $15,000 for bronze. You don't get that in Kenya if you get gold. So when you see athletes crying, and that's why I just really feel for them, especially when they come from sub-Saharan Africa, right? When we know what the conditions are like, and more so now with COVID, we're into what's probably now the fifth wave over there, and very little income for people. That $10,000 US for the gold medalist, Eliud Kipchoge, Paris Jepchirchir, right? That could feed their family for a bit until they go back out abroad for another race where they could get a good purse. And then of course there's the sponsorship money as well, right? That you get from sporting outfitters, the Nikes and Pumas, and what's that, Reebok and all of those guys.
Adidas, Nike, all the athletics.
Yeah.
So
it's not free.
There's
money attached.
This term amateur doesn't exist.
No, that died. Juan Antonio Samaranch, listen, the United States men's basketball team winning the gold medal for the what? How many decades have they been winning the gold medal, if you please? It's almost boring, because a lot of those guys, I just watched them in the NBA. There were people from the Milwaukee Bucks. I just watched them in the NBA. I'm like, what's this? And even the other countries, the players in, from
another
the French team, Dagobert, the French team, the Spanish team, etc.
Yeah.
It takes away. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what the future of the Olympics is, because again, the cities that host them, most of the time they lose money on them. A lot of money.
Well, Tokyo is probably the losingest
Of course.
Of all of the losing host cities because the delay, it was put off for a year, right?
Yep.
And they didn't get the revenue from the crowds and the visitors.
Yeah, no crowds were there, so no
empty
residual.
stadiums.
Yeah, empty stadiums. So
yeah,
we will see.
No, and then you've got place, and it's not just the Olympics. It's also World Cup, for example, where you have stadiums that are rusting. And if you saw what they did, what had to be done to get that land, people who were expropriated, usually poor people who usually didn't have anywhere else to go, the people who were pushed out of favelas in Rio in 2016, right? And by the way, big up to CBC for doing that extra coverage on the Afro-Brazilians that they did during 2016. It was unprecedented. I'd never, ever seen that kind of coverage on, Black diasporas in an Olympic event. So, we'll see.
4 more years. We'll see what comes up next.
Paris. Vive la France. Vive la France. Which
right.
Also, I think France had the largest contingent of Black athletes in their team of any European country. Yes, they actually did. But then, the colonial ties and all of that, right?
Sure. Well, look, we're going to take a bit of a break. The Olympics are done, put to bed. They're done, put to bed. They got through them. Nothing really too serious. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the loss of some significant people in the African community.
Yay, Canada.
There we go.
24 medals. Not shabby at all.
And mostly women.
I was about to say, so Canadian government policymakers, if you're listening, can we please better fund women's sports? I mean, you've tried when you saw that the women were the ones bringing in the medals in the beginning in Rio, and you decided to beef up the funding. Can we like beef it up more? And can we better fund track and field? Okay. I'm just saying.
All right. Let's go to break. We'll be back in just a moment. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, and it is Black Canada Talking time. Black Canada Talking is a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes on stories, POVs that are of importance to them, or we showcase Black Canadians are doing their thing.
The real aspect of what goes on behind the walls or behind the fence is a totally different persona and a totally different picture.
There was just a big sense of relief when we finally got there.
We have to realize that everything we do is going to have an impact on probably a lot of people we don't even know.
One of the mandates of the CBC is to reflect Canada back to itself.
Not a lot of sustainable long-term movement that will affect economic change.
God bless, peace well, keep the faith, and walk good. Welcome back to Black Canada Talking on August 8th. The Olympics are done, but Sarah is not done. Sarah and I are not done. So we're going to be back talking about some more things. Welcome, Sarah, back. And
yes.
Sarah, there are some people you'd like to give some tribute to.
Yeah, but before that, the Olympics actually are not done. The Paralympics.
That's true.
Are coming up. August 26th, I believe, to September 5th. So please, let's watch as much as we can of our Paralympians to also give broadcasters incentive to show more of what they do, you know. Yes. So, oh my goodness. This was no. The end of July and the beginning of August, really not a good time. Not a good time. So I mentioned Angela Bailey, but those of us who are fans of a genre of music called zouk are in very deep mourning following the passing of Guadeloupean musician Jacob Desvarieux, who is the co-founder of the band Kassav. He died at the age of 65 on Friday, July 30th, after a battle with COVID. And so he had been in poor health after undergoing a kidney transplant. And he was taken to hospital on July 12th in Pointe-à-Pitre, Guadeloupe's largest city. And that's where he died. So Jacob Desvarieux shot to fame in the 1980s when zouk was invented. So zouk is sort of a fast, catchy, Caribbean-inspired sound genre of music. So he brought that out of the French Caribbean to the world. And so this was the brainchild of him and another Guadeloupean artist, Pierre-Edouard Decimus, and Freddie Marchal. And so the three of them founded the band Kassav in 1979. And Desvarieux was influenced by American guitarists Chuck Berry and Jimi Hendrix. So I need to mention the members of the band Kassav, Jocelyne Berroir, the only female member of the band, Jean-Philippe Martelly, Patrick Saint-Éloi, who left us in 2010, Jean-Claude Nemrod, Claude Vamur, and Georges Decimus, of course. And so Kassav have put out over 20 albums, 12 solo albums by several band members. And the peak of its popularity really was in the 80s. And, you know, they continued to play sold out shows around the world up until, Jacob took ill. So this Kassav sound, right? The base of that sound is goka, which is a Guadeloupean drumming music. And then they add, different ingredients from all over the Caribbean. And it is in the same family as compas, people who know the Haitian compas. So it's in that same family. So for me, Jacob really was my introduction to non-reggae Caribbean music. Before, non-reggae and non-calypso, because my dad introduced me to Mighty Sparrow in the 70s. But really, my, introduction to compas and zouk was Kassav in France in the late 80s. And Jacob, in fact, had very, very strong and close ties to Africa. And he and Kassav inspired Afro zouk, which is now an African version of the zouk coming out of the Caribbean. So it's really, it's not just an icon, but he's really a huge promoter of Afro-Caribbean and African music. He made numerous trips to Africa. He was always received like royalty over there. And he always claimed his African ancestry. Apparently, when he was a kid, he spent a number of years in Senegal. And Senegal has Gorée Island, l'île de Gorée, which is where a lot of Africans transited after being kidnapped. And they were shipped from there to the New World. And so Jacob never forgot that. And he made sure at least once a year or more often he would go to Africa and really sort of reconnect. And one good thing that he was doing in his later years, he was 65, so he wasn't that old, but he already, like Hugh Masekela in South Africa and Oliver Mtukudzi in Zimbabwe, he knew how important it is to prepare the next generation who have such huge shoes to fill, because Masekela, Mtukudzi, and this what's his name, Devarieux, all three of them, they are synonymous with a particular sound from their culture. And so they had been grooming now and the next generation, and often all three of them would bring younger artists on the road with them, to tour with them, to introduce them to the world. So mes condoléances à tous les fans de Kassav et de Jacob, qui reposent en paix. So speaking of African culture, my goodness, another icon, this time in academia, Dr. Runoko Rashidi, an American historian, essayist, author, public lecturer. So he passed away in Egypt on August 2nd while on a research trip over there. So this particular trip, it's a trip he makes every year. He takes an annual tour of that country. So he starts in Cairo and then he finishes in Abu Simbel. So he had started this tour on July 31st. He was supposed to finish on August 13th, but alas, he died on August 2nd. So for those of you who may not know who Professor Dr. Rashidi was, an author who had published collections of essays, books about Black culture and Black history, really a prolific academic writer, 22 books in his career. And you may know some of these titles: The Black Image in Antiquity, Black Star, The African Presence in Early Europe, Uncovering the African Past. And this guy was very well traveled. 124 countries and lecturing in 67 of those countries, right? And recently, he had been researching African artifacts and African cultural presence in museums around the world. And I mentioned this, and this is important because I don't know if some of you have been following the movement in the last few years with all of these African countries demanding that Europe return stolen artifacts from places like Benin, Nigeria, artifacts of great value, not just monetarily, but also culturally. Belgium, you know. So he was part of that wave of reclaiming our stolen heritage, which sit in museums that people pay for. People pay to go to those museums to see our stuff that was stolen by Europeans. And so Professor Rashida was one of the, the people in that movement to get all of those artifacts back. So that is just, oh my goodness, huge loss. And Professor Rashidi actually came here to Carleton University. I remember that occasion very well because it was one of my very first interviews with an African-American scholar. The other scholar I interviewed was Mr. Maxwell. Yes. And Dr. Rashidi was very generous with his time. I didn't know him to be, an arrogant, how academics are, like they know a lot, they've traveled a lot, they can quote this, that, and the other. Nope. All he needed was for you to have an interest, a genuine interest in the work. And that was it.
Do you feel that with the younger generation of Black Canadians, there is a desire to not only find out about history, but preserve history?
Wow, that's a huge question.
Well, you
When you say, but when you say the younger generation, I mean, I don't know all of the academics in the world. I don't.
no, but I'm just saying for younger Black Canadians, do
Oh,
you?
Canadians.
Yes, do you feel that there is an interest and a desire to know about Black Canadian history and to preserve Black Canadian history?
You know what? I find that lately, and I think that this might be thanks to, you know, the impetus of the UN Decade for Peoples of African Descent, because that whole push to to get back our artifacts from all of these European museums, that's also part of, you know, the UN Decade for Peoples of African Descent: recognition, justice, development. I've found in Quebec, in my province, there are a number who have been doing some good work. You know, Webster, some of the professors at some of our universities have been, because, you know, there's not a lot of material in French about Black Canadian history. There is not. And some of the younger academics are realizing that there's more on the English side, less on the French side. So I've seen more movement to produce more research, more documents, more audiovisual material, because, you know, we're in an audiovisual world now where young people and kids are not going to the library and, you know, take out, you know, the large volumes and sort of flip through them, etc. No, they're not going to be doing that. They're going on YouTube to see, you know, the 5-minute clip by Webster, or, you know, some other popular I don't know how to say this in English, vulgarisateur, like somebody who vulgarisateur is like somebody with an academic or scientific background, but who puts it in plain language. I don't know what that is. I can't hear you.
Someone who can break it down to everyday language.
Right.
Everyday
exactly.
language that the masses can understand.
Exactly. I'm sure there's an English word for it which I can't find, and I'm embarrassed as a translator.
No.
Because I'm thinking in French. It's in Quebec, but I find that there's good work being done. I mean, can we talk about Natasha Henry, if you please? Natasha Henry, who is the president of the Ontario Black History Society, who has written 3 books on Emancipation Day celebrations, the history of Emancipation Day celebrations in Ontario. Right? So that's one aspect of history. There are other academics doing great research on the enslavement of Black people in Canada, or Upper Canada,
so
Lower Canada.
As you mentioned this, it brings to my mind, though, there needs to be either a physical and a digital space where all this information can be accessed.
You know what? I think that Kwame Williams would love you mentioning it, because that is precisely the role of the of CPAD, the Canadian Institute for Peoples of African Descent, which is being created. It's supposed to be a clearinghouse for all of this awesome research that is being done by the Natasha Henrys, by Dr. Carol Duncan, by what is her name? Charmaine, I forget her last name. Dr. Afua Cooper.
Yeah.
You know, the historian out in Alberta, I forget her name. But yes.
Now
not just historical, not just history on Black Canadian history, but research on, you know, medicine, science, engineering, research being done by persons of African descent, and research being done about persons of African descent. So that's being, that's being set up. All we need now is for all of these intellectuals and researchers and academics to get behind the project. Get behind it. Support it. CPAD, look it up. Canadian Institute for Peoples of African Descent. That is the goal, to bring together all that incredible knowledge that has been created, that is being created, and that will be created. So that, yes, Dr. Vibe, you don't have to run up and down all over the place and look, try and find, the Senegalese Canadian academic and Université du Québec à Sherbrooke or whatever, and then you have to dig through all of the all of the links to find, his research.
Yeah, yeah.
The idea is to bring all of this research and all these researchers together in one place, digitally.
Yeah, that
and then promote it, and then also promote it, right? So that the mainstream, when they're coming at us and they're saying this, that, and the other, and it's mainly these white researchers who've done research about us, about what they think, right, with their preconceived notions.
Well, it just goes back to one of the reasons why I started this digital journey many years ago, controlling the narrative.
Yes, absolutely.
In the controlling of the narrative, I'm a firm believer, if Black Canadians want to move forward, we have to control our education, control our businesses, and control our media.
Amen to that.
Right? Those three pillars, if we can get control of those things, we'll certainly make significant steps forward, not only for the past, present, but future generations of Black Canadians.
You know what else we also must control? Control our products, control this research that we create, that people come along and help themselves to without crediting us.
Yep.
There's that as well.
It's a very important point. We really have to
copyright all our stuff.
Yeah.
House it somewhere where it is protected. Make sure we have, a little legal war chest so we can go after people and sue them when they, use our stuff without attribution, whether it is our photos. Hi, Kathy Grant. Whether it is, our actual research, our interviews.
All that stuff. We really have to do it in lockdown because other cultures have been doing it for years.
Absolutely. Yeah, right. And making money off of that. And, so their academics are able to live. They're able to self-fund the publication of their work, or partly self-fund, right? Because they have control of their work.
Mm-hmm. We really have to look at ownership. Ownership is so important. Ownership of our minds is and that's where it starts.
Yeah. One thing, I know we're off the Olympics, but I see we have a bit of time left. But there was one aspect that we would have discussed, the four of us, if there had been four. So all of these Black athletes who made Canada proud, right? Who were on those podiums. Mm-hmm. When they go home, what happens? Are they still visible?
Well, we'll see how much we see them in the media and on ads coming. Something tells me we may see more white Canadians doing ads than the Black, but we will see. But again, that's another thing that we as Black Canadians, we have to celebrate and showcase those Black Canadians that did great achievements. We should not rely on those who don't look like us to promote them.
Do you find we don't do that enough? Because when I've been to all of your galas over there in Toronto, and Lord knows I've been to a few, they are showcased. I went to one Harry Jerome Awards gala where I ran into literally my heroes. Donovan Bailey was there. What's his name? Johnson.
Ben Johnson?
Ben Johnson was there. Mark, the hurdler.
Mark McCoy.
McCoy. Mark
Yes, Mark
McCoy
McCoy.
was there. I lost my mind. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
There were like 5 or 6 of them in one gala.
Actually, a little fact, many, many years ago, I had a one-on-one conversation with Ben Johnson in his home.
See?
So
I mean, it's done, but maybe not as much as we should, right?
So this is an opportunity for us to control our narrative and also get to those people and showcase them on platforms like this and yours, and promote them to the rest of our community. Because again, we can't expect those who don't look like us to promote them.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and again, in terms of the sports funding that I complain about a lot. We're taxpayers. Black people pay taxes in this country. We should not settle for most of the sports funding going to white-dominated sports like hockey, swimming, etc., etc. We should ask for our money's worth, our taxpayers' worth as well. But again, we need to be organized in order to do that.
The question is, what are we fighting for?
Exactly.
Not why are we fighting? What are we fighting for?
Yeah.
What? I think that is a conversation topic. When everyone's back together as four, we should have a round table about that conversation topic.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Sarah, you did outstanding as per usual.
It was great.
Thank you so much as always.
Yeah.
If people want to touch base with you, how can they do that?
Every Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon, I am a member of the Black on Black team, where we have our interviews. We have, interesting people, and not just from the Ottawa-Gatineau area, but we've had you on. Dr. Vibe, yes. Vous, toi, yeah. We've had you. We've had Nicole Waldron on here. Yeah. We've had Natasha Henry on here. So basically we focus on issues, topics, people from the Afro-Caribbean diaspora of interest, locally, nationally, internationally. We've even had people from Britain on. We've had people call in from Ethiopia. So that's Black on Black on CHUO 89.1 FM. The website is www.chuo.fm, and you can go on there and find shows from the last 4 weeks. And now we have podcasts where you might be able to hear the interview we did with Dr. Vibe.
There you go. Thank you so much. And then you're also involved with Black History Ottawa.
I am a board member with Black History Ottawa, so you can check out what we do here to promote Black Canadian history and heritage at www.blackhistoryottawa.org.
We will see you in 2 weeks, but I'm sure you and I'll be communicating before then. Thank you so much for your time today. It's appreciated and not taken for granted. And I am Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I am the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and I host the only online broadcast in the world for fathers and dads that is sponsored by Dove Men Care and also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are doing their thing in food, wine, and travel. I'd like to thank everyone who watched this live or watching it on replay or listening to it on replay today. And I'm getting in the habit of leaving with a word before I sign off. So what am I going to do? Which one's first? Okay, I'll do this. And this is called How to Think About Money. Money isn't rare. There is nothing precious about precious stones. It is all incredibly common. Most of the people who have it are not impressive. Most of the great fortunes are, in fact, the opposite of great. The way to think about money is as a tool. And what did the people who use money right use their tools for? To do good, to get better, to make the world better, we can do the same. As always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace. Thank you so much to BIA Media for another epic production. And we will see you next Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Black Canada Talking. You can watch replays on the Dr. Vibe Show Facebook and YouTube pages, and also the BIA Media Facebook page. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and walk good. Cheers.